that's the goal, because I mean, it's like people are going to die early because of what you don't do, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the most preventable things to do is to reduce your risk of heart disease by just getting in a better BMI range, just lowering your body fat percent, lowering your blood lipid levels, having better blood pressure.
Dr. Jordan Weber.
What's up?
Oh, this is hilarious. I love this, man. It's been, how many years has it been since I was in your class?
At least 5.
Yeah.
Probably
It was
5.
2014 to 2016. I made it out in 2 years. That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, just you only have a semester to teach your students. Sometimes it's 2 semesters,
Yeah.
sometimes it's 3. And then it's like, see ya. That's it.
I know you
That's
miss
it.
me. I know I was
What's
one of your favorite students.
Yeah, man, because you talked in class. Students don't like to talk in class, and so you don't get to know them. And so, obviously, we share bodybuilding as a passion, so we have a lot to talk about and catch up on.
Oh, definitely. Well, before we get into any of that, tell everyone who you are. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I did get my doctorate degree in educational leadership in curriculum instruction and assessment, if that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I chose that. I chose that because I didn't want to leave Wilmington, and I could have got my doctorate in something like exercise science or physical education or adaptive PE, but those were 3 fields that I felt pretty confident about. And I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna go into PT school or anything like med school or anything. So I was like, how do I create a better curriculum for my students? How do I be a better evaluator, better like actually a teacher at the university level? Because you don't get really, you're not taught that in a doctorate program. When it comes to like exercise science or like physical education, you might not really dive as much into curriculum, but obviously those are a little bit more specialty areas. So when you go in the educational leadership field, you can kind of be a little bit more broad. You don't have to stay in physical education. You can go into like adaptive physical activity. You can go into health. You can go into a lot of different fields that you're interested in. So it's definitely took me out of my comfort zone. It wasn't something I was really interested in because of the title, but I knew that it would help me become a better instructor. And so I think it did lead to that. And so I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. So huge Buffalo Bills fan, obviously. Huge Sabres fan. It's like all I listen to is Buffalo radio, like all day, all night. And that's it. And, I moved down here about 10 or 13 years ago looking for opportunities. There's just not a lot of teaching opportunities in New York. And it led me to UNCW, which, this community, I was like, man, I just want to stay here. How do I do that? So I just did everything in my power to just find, work, whether it was personal training, teaching yoga, working at after school programs, working at the university, working as an independent contractor, that type
Yeah.
of thing. And just creating nonprofits and just like doing everything in my 20s as much as I could kind of get to where I needed to be in order to get a doctorate degree, because you do have to have a lot of experience before you get a master's degree, and you need a lot of experience before you get a doctorate degree. So, I mean, it took over 10 years after I graduated my bachelor's degree just to get that degree. So I graduated my bachelor's degree in like 2007 and got my doctorate degree in 2018. So over 11 years after.
Wow.
So there was years I took off. It wasn't really a high concern for me to get my doctorate degree or anything like that. But it definitely has helped me kind of build the field that I'm in now, which is basically fitness education and healthful living.
Yeah. Dude, that's crazy. You've been grinding, man. I knew you did a lot of those things, but
Yeah,
as I
man.
kind of dove more into it and I listened back onto your old podcast, and when I came to talk to your class, things you were talking about being an independent contractor. I was like, man, I forgot he did all that stuff.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's fun. Entrepreneurial like business was fun. Like before I became lecturer, full time teacher, because you just have so many avenues and things to do. And I think podcasting is definitely something I definitely love to do because I get to interview coaches, teachers, and leaders on my podcast. So, but that happens
Yeah.
only when I teach that specific class, which I get to do this fall. So I'll be able to add some more episodes, obviously. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, we met through bodybuilding days, and I was competing, and I was really into that. I mean, I got, I know I reminisce, of course, those days, those very
Don't we all?
strict eating days. Let's just say what it is. It's just about strict eating, and that's about it.
Yeah. That that diet is what does everything. But before we dive into that anymore, I see you took a sip. What are we drinking?
It is a Scotch and Coke. Scotch and
What
Coke.
type of scotch?
I think it's Dewar's.
Diet Coke?
Regular Coke.
Oh
I
man,
actually
what are
have
you
a
doing?
I actually have a better Scotch that I didn't drink. I don't know why I should have taken it out. I don't even know what that Scotch is, actually. Why?
I'm
What's
using
up?
a Blade and Bow whiskey.
Well,
Oh,
yeah, I didn't.
I don't know,
I
man.
I
Yeah,
had I had a
didn't know you were
I
about the
had a
sugars.
I had a peach whiskey. Oh, we'll talk all about diet.
Ooh,
I'm not. I'm not a.
I
How
didn't know you
you?
were into that realm.
Oh, what? The sugar diet or the
No,
non-sugar diet?
no, the whiskey, but it's just I'm just giving you a hard time. Just giving you a hard
Oh,
time.
okay.
But yeah, great choice. So, yeah, you were my teacher. You were my professor. I forgot what class you started off teaching me in, but I remember like wore an NPC shirt, and I was like, oh, and then you brought it up. I'm like, oh, this guy, we're gonna have a good time in class. I
Yeah,
think it
I mean,
was
I could just tell the way you walked. I was like, that's a bodybuilder right there. The back
I
stack.
was a I was a juicy guy back then. That was the heaviest I've ever been in your class.
Oh, really?
Um, oh
Wow.
yeah, like
Yeah.
178. I'm like
Whew.
148 now.
Okay. 240 is my heaviest. I'm at 223 right now. So
How do you feel?
I feel big. I feel like I can't fit in a lot of my pants. I probably need to either lose weight or
Yeah,
buy bigger pants. I'm at that stage. Basically, we're having a kid in
yeah,
July, so you lose a lot of weight that first month. So I'm just trying to stack on the pounds because once that baby comes in mid
really.
July, I end up losing weight. You kind of you forget about eating is when you have a newborn around. So it's kind of like it's like I'm prepping for the baby right now. Basically, all the bodybuilding days have taught me how to meal prep
Yeah,
in many ways, so I can gain and lose whenever I feel like it, basically, or I can gain when I know I'm going to lose. So
yeah.
that's what I'm kind of
I'm
planning
having a
for.
kid too.
Really,
September. Oh
you're,
yeah.
you're lying.
No, no, having a little boy.
Are you serious? September?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh,
That's why I messaged you. I'm like,
congratulations.
oh man, I can't wait to be a dad.
Oh, well, you got some things to learn. I would honestly get
Yeah,
a newborn plastic baby and learn how to do the diapers before it comes out because I was helpless for the first couple of weeks. And I wish I
I
could.
mean,
I wish I was like, why didn't I practice? I'm like, Chris, so that's my one suggestion I'll give you. I'm only going to give you
all
one.
right,
That's it. Change some
all right.
plastic baby diapers.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Maybe I might skip that though and just use that as my excuse not to change the diaper. But we'll see.
Dude, no, you have to get good at it quick. If you're not helping changing the diapers, you're in big trouble.
Oh, fair enough. Fair
And you
enough.
have to learn how to hold a baby. That's another thing I didn't know how to do. Didn't know how to hold baby, didn't know where it went, didn't know if it was comfortable. I mean, is the baby breathing? You gotta, you're monitoring at night. You're gonna be up at night looking at your phone, monitoring the baby.
Oh man,
Oof,
I know. I'm not gonna sleep.
lots
It's
of nerves.
I yeah,
But
but I
our
can't wait.
second baby, I feel good about. So I mean, we're a little bit more confident. We're less, I think, uh, anxious. I guess.
It's another boy, right?
It's gonna be a girl.
You having a girl?
Yep, yin yang, boy and a girl.
Nice, 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 nice. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, so we're lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Congrats, man. Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, time's flying by,
Are
man.
you gonna keep the
But
beard?
that's all I got. What do you mean?
I, well, I mean, that could be a time where you're like, this is where I cut it. Having a baby,
No
new
way, dude.
beginnings.
I mean, no,
I don't
I
know.
mean
It's up
it's
to
a little
you.
something. But I mean, dude, I had a decent amount of hair back in college, and then
Oh
I
yeah, the
shaved it
curly
all off.
cues.
Like,
Yeah, you had the curly cues.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Arby's.
yeah.
We used to call you
Uh,
Arby's. No,
you just call me Arby's. So that
no,
was behind
no,
my
no,
back. That's nice.
no. I'm just kidding. I just made it up.
But dude, I will say, in your class, um, it was the most interactive I'd been. Like,
Mm-hmm.
of course, because we had our lab. I think it was elementary education.
Yep, it was.
For those who don't know, I have a bachelor's in health and PE. Um, that was a lot of fun. I mean, you made it very fun, made it very interactive. But were you teaching lectures at that time, or were you just doing
No, I
labs?
wasn't full time. I was part time. I was earning my dues. I was working overtime. I was working, I was working 7 days a week basically at that point. I didn't know if I even was going to get that job full time. I was just doing it because, I really like to do it. I knew it could eventually end up into something, but, you can never be too confident about like what you want. So you're always like, thinking like someone else could want the same position that I'm looking for. So you're always thinking, what can I do to be better? And yeah, I mean, they hired me because of that ability to kind of get my students socially engaged, try new things. They definitely took a chance on me because looking back at the curriculum I taught then, I mean, it's pretty similar. There's some changes, but definitely I have more of an opinion about certain things than I did then, and my structure is totally different. I have a totally different mindset. I mean, I think every 3 years your mindset changes, right? Depending on
Mm-hmm.
what your profession is. Mine, I'm always trying to either earn new certifications or go to professional development, learn new topics. I'm always listen to podcasts. It's kind of endless when it comes to information. It's
Yeah.
information overload. It's chat GPT. It's asking chat GPT questions now that I'm not getting answers to in my health books, that type of thing. So I'm just like very curious person, I guess you could say. And I think that's
Yeah.
what led me to kind of teach and yeah, and led to you as a student, which now we're having a podcast, so pretty sweet.
Full circle. Yeah. So tell me about that journey of you getting into teaching. Like, what, I know you said curiosity was a big player in that, but like, what made you want to take on that venture of going to school to become a teacher and educator and then set your sights on teaching at a university?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a plan in high school because I didn't have a good SAT score, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went to the community college. I only applied to one school, and that was Erie Community College. And I found out they had a soccer team, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to play soccer. Played soccer, was captain of the team, was also captain in high school. Soccer was always like my biggest passion. And I even told my librarian, I was like, I want to be a professional soccer player. And she's like, no, you can never be a professional soccer player. I'm like, really? I'm like, no, you can't make money doing that. I'm like, you can't? So I was like, well, that's my dream, though. That's all I want to do because that's all I, honestly thought about was just like playing sports my whole life. So I think that's why I chose PE was because I knew I would at least be doing something like physical activity oriented the rest of my life if I chose that. So when I
Mm-hmm.
went to Brockport, that was a huge PE school. I only applied to one school and it was Brockport. Didn't end up playing soccer there. It was probably my biggest regret and biggest thing I wish I could take back was try to get those 2 years back of college soccer. I think I missed out on that, but that kind of led me into just kind of my own path of just getting into strength training, getting into different types of philosophies. So I started getting into Eastern like philosophies and yoga at the time in college, and I was like taking this college yoga class in the underneath in this dormitory in the basement, and there was like 6 people there. It was like 2005 when like yoga, no one did yoga, and it was just like so weird. And then the next yoga class was like some Bikram class, and you had to wear your underwear, and I was like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. We're stretching. It's hot. It's like, what is going on? And so I think not playing sports allowed me to kind of get into yoga and different, like, meditation and just kind of like self-awareness stuff like that. And it kind of, I didn't know what I was going to do after Brockport, because I didn't get the teacher licensure that I needed to stay in New York. So I was like, well, maybe I'll go to North Carolina, because I don't think they have the high standards that New York does. But when I got here, they're like, yeah, actually we do. You have to get certified in K through 12 teaching in order to teach. And I'm like, wow, well, the place I happen to move to has a program and a licensure track here at UNCW. I had never heard of UNCW. I had never heard of Wilmington. I had never heard of Riceville Beach. Kind of got out here. A friend had lived out in North Carolina, had me move out. And then I just kind of grew to love it. And I was like, I need to just stay here somehow, some way. I was like, wow, they have a K through 12
Yeah.
licensure program. So I'm like, I'm going back to school, take out more loans. I'm like, I'm going to, invest in myself type of thing. I'm like, whatever, going into more debt. I was in really bad debt at the time. I mean, I had nothing. I had no money. Like, literally, like, all my credit cards were in like deferral, and I had like 6
Jeez.
things. I mean, I was in so much debt, living like paycheck to paycheck. First job was doing dishes. And I was like, I'll take any job. I was washing dishes. Then I was a busser, and then I was a waiter. And I was like
Where at?
working. I was like working up the chain. I'm 23 years old, and I had already been a camp athletic coordinator when I was 19, and I had already
What
been
restaurant?
Old Chicago.
Where's that at?
It was on Market Street. It was next. It was by Whitey's, Michael Jordan's first restaurant. Me and
Huh.
Michael Jordan are
Okay. Is it
related.
still there?
No, it's down.
Oh.
Yeah, so I worked there. I had to do anything to get a job. So I was like, I'll wash dishes. And I was like, it's crazy because my uncle, who has an intellectual disability, is a full-time dishwasher. And like, this is where I'm at. I'm 23. I'm washing dishes. I have no money. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I can't, like, I couldn't find any work because I had just moved here. There was just no jobs in 2008. It was like the recession.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it is now. I mean, you can get a restaurant job anywhere. I couldn't get a waiting.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get a waiting job here. That's how like high demanding waiters were in in Riceville Beach. Now you could go anywhere, and they're hiring everywhere. It's like the opposite.
Yep.
So I just kind of worked up the ladder, and I ended up working at an after school program, elementary age students. And I just worked alongside of these kids for 2 years, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Ended up getting my K through 12 licensure. When I went to my internship, she motivated me to get my master's degree. And then, Combs, who hired me to be the mentor in the I Can Do It Adaptive Physical Activity program, she hired me to work on that on Saturdays. And so that was my first entrance into the university, was working on Saturdays for low money, barely
Jeez.
anything. And just being there at 10 a.m., being there at 9 or 8 in the morning on a Saturday when I'm in my 20s, like wanting to live life. And I'm at the university at like 8 in the morning. And that's what I'm doing for years. And, that led me to eventually getting my master's and them hiring me to, be a lab instructor for the same type of activities. And then I became a lab instructor for classes like elementary PE, high school PE,
Mm-hmm.
which led to us creating a new track, lifetime fitness track, that has a personal training course. Has my coaching course I also teach, and then I also teach at the master's degree level. So I get to teach a lot of different uh, classes every semester. Sometimes I find out I'm teaching a new class a couple of weeks before the semester starts, and I have to put together a curriculum. And that's kind of what kind of motivates me and energizes me sometimes, is working on something new. And so even working on something
Hmm.
old feels like something new, because I'm constantly re-updating content. So if you were in my class 5 years ago, I feel bad for you, because I feel like
It was good.
I understand that, but it's like I've updated. It was good, but I look back and I'm like, I probably would have, done this and then that. And you're right. I'm probably my worst critic, obviously. But I mean well, but I just think that, a lot of things I just change. I'm like, why was I doing that this way? And, you're just kind of self-critical, which is what gets you
For
to where
sure.
you're at, because you have it's just such high competition, working in at the university setting, and you have to really outperform. And even though you don't get paid, how well you teach, it's basically the same thing each year. So it's you don't you have to have some type of internal incentive. You can't have some type of external incentive like money, to be motivated to do better each year. And so each year you try to get better and better. You teach new topics, better topics, or you just try to structure things a little bit more clearly and organized, so that people try to you're trying to get people to understand a little bit more.
Yeah. I think you went above and beyond because you made a lot of content. You had the YouTube channel. You were constantly recording everything. No lie. And I think I tagged you in the story, but my mom, she's a PE teacher, and she found a video that you posted of me and Andrew Knight, like arms locked, skipping around
Yeah.
just in this elementary class. And she's like, "Is this you?" I was like, "Oh man, that is hilarious. Wearing a beanie with my Arby's coming out. That's too funny."
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you've made an
we had
impact, dude.
fun. We had fun, and
We had
I
a great
wanted
time.
people that are phys ed teachers to see that, that it didn't have to be dodgeball, or it didn't have doesn't have to be kickball,
Yeah.
or like something that's like so dumb, and like, or just do jumping jacks,
Mm-hmm.
or just do burpees, or just like, there's just so much like pointless stuff phys ed teachers do, um, that you just have to like,
Yeah.
um, you know, learn about how to do that at the college setting. But sometimes you don't get the professors either.
Yeah. I mean, as you've grown in your career as a professor and now to the point now where you're full time, what do you think makes a good professor or a good lecturer versus someone who maybe isn't? Like, what are some qualities that you found that you've improved on that you think make you an exceptional lecturer? Because I know, like, dude, looking back, I had those teachers that I'm sitting in there and I'm like, this person can't explain this for me to understand this to save
Yeah.
my life. Like, I'm done. Or they just
Yeah.
didn't care, right? I mean, I know you
Right.
care because you're extremely passionate about it.
Yeah. It honestly, it depends on the student and teacher relationship, like how they perceive you, how they perceive their class, how they perceive their program, how they perceive their major, how they perceive themselves. And then they're always looking at you like in comparison, like, for instance, I might have a student who's not in the same degree program, who's taking my class, who feels like I'm not suiting their needs because it's not, maybe I'm not teaching the same philosophies they have been taught before, or maybe I haven't met them before and I might be a little bit more reserved, or they're not in my degree program, so we don't have that connection or relationship. So it just
Mm-hmm.
depends. There's so many variables to teaching and learning that, you just have to really do your best at, um, not judging students first, and not judging how they may perceive you. And it's very hard because some teachers will get
Hmm.
really frustrated if they get a poor evaluation from a student who writes something pretty personal about them, and they can't get over that. And so you have to learn how to receive that feedback from the students and grow from that feedback, and actually, create some type of action plan from that feedback, from what the students are perceiving, because you have to do your best job at, you know helping people learn the content, but not being biased or sarcastic at the same time. It's very hard to do when you're up in front of 20 people, and maybe, let's just say, 90% of them don't know you. Maybe they look at you like who does this guy think he's talking about? Who's he think he is talking to me? Like, why do we have to take this class? That type of thing. So you have to try to get through that, and you have to try to not piss them off, because if you make somebody mad or if you say something sarcastic or biased, you're going to be held accountable during your evaluation at the end of the semester. So you have to be very careful.
Hmm.
It's very sensitive. It's
Things have
not,
changed.
things have changed. You know, there's a very, it's a very stressful feeling getting evaluated by your students these days. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. What do you? This is a question I've been wanting to ask people for a while, and I think you're the perfect person to ask. And I don't know how big, and we can get into that too, how big your student load is and your class load. I know since you're full time now and you're not just teaching like the PE classes, you're teaching a wide variety of everything. Like, what have been some of the differences you've noticed in students of like their attitudes or their outlooks over the last, 5 or 6, 7 years that you've been teaching at the university, like the university level kids?
Well, the degree program changes so that students change. So it's hard to compare those students because they're totally different students because the degree programs have changed so much. Our PE
But
students are similar, but I feel like they were a little bit more mature 8 years ago. I felt like there was a little bit higher level of professional attitude toward the profession
hmm,
just to begin with. Um, I think nowadays people are not as sure about themselves as they were maybe 8 years ago because there's just so much new information that's like information overload. Students aren't able to keep up with the new technology trends or social media trends, so they're more worried about that than they are school, I think. So I think that has a huge role to play because I think when I went to college, I don't remember social media being as um, asphyxiating in my life. I think courses were very seriously taken. Like you got D's, that type of thing. You were held for your accountability and that type of thing. That nowadays, with COVID and just like people not feeling comfortable going to class, you have to be adaptable and you have to also allow for more leeway. So you have to allow for more absences. You have to allow for more
hmm,
excuses during this time because there's been a lot of stressful turmoil. And now we're kind of past that and trying to get back into that serious mode where we need to be accountable. You need to be in class. You're responsible. But I feel like there's been this almost like trauma from COVID where students, maybe as a whole, are definitely more anxious and stressed and
hmm,
maybe that 2008 feeling of just like times have changed, before either a recession or we're in a recession right now. I think we're in a
yeah,
recession right now. It
100%.
kind of feels like that, same way it was, 10 years ago. But I feel like that happens every 10 years. It just goes up and down.
Yeah. So, what about work ethic? Have you seen work ethic change?
I would say no. I don't think work ethic has changed. I don't think college students' work ethic will ever change because you're just so focused on your social atmosphere that school is always going to become second. You're just holding on those 3 years or 4 years of college that you're in there. So I think work ethic is, it's very rare that you see someone with good or high work ethic. So I don't think that's ever changed. I think it's very hard for college students to have
Hmm.
that skill. You won't see that college student. You probably won't have a relationship with that student. They'll probably be so busy studying. I think most college students that go to a coastal university are here to have a good time, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you're at the beach. Um, People travel here for vacation. People retire here. It's like a nice place to, raise a family, but it's a hard place to find a job. And so a lot of college students go here and then, find better jobs in other states, usually other states,
Mhm.
if not Charlotte or Raleigh. And then you're very lucky to find a job that you just happen to get in Wilmington. Some people do it, some people don't. It depends on if you want to stay or if you want to go, basically. So,
See, that's so interesting to hear because I felt I really did enjoy the program. I mean, I'm not teaching, um, and I can get into that later too because it was a very interesting perspective change during my internship. Um, but like my social life consisted of just going to the rec center and lifting, and then eating as much as possible. Like that, like it's so
yeah.
funny because I cared a lot about the program. I cared a lot about my grades because I didn't do that well in high school because of my own just stupidity and wanting to play computer games.
Hmm.
But then I just went and like overloaded myself in classes, taking like 18 to 22 credit hours semester, and came out with like a 3.8. I'm like, I'm gonna take this super seriously. I'm paying for it, and I'm also gonna get as big as possible.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's, I mean,
that's a different
I played
type
the
of
college thing
dedication.
differently than most.
Yeah, and I felt like that's how I was when I was at Brockport. I used to, work out a ton, and I used to study a lot of things that were outside of physical education. I used to just study just like topics that I was just like interested in, and I just basically worked out a lot. And a lot of people
Yeah,
would be partying on the weekends, and I'd be at the gym type of thing. And I don't know, I just wasn't a big day drinker, and so many college students were. I was like, I'm more of
hmm
a day lifter than a day drinker. Um, and
yeah,
so, I never really got too pressured in that. Obviously, in my younger days, I partied a little bit. I mean, I think most people do. I had three older brothers, so it's hard not to when you have so many bad influences in your life. You
yeah.
just blame it on them.
One of the one of the cool things about the PE program though is that I got the opportunity to work with adapted students and students with disabilities, and that was probably one of the most rewarding things ever. I could look for it and maybe
What was your? Yeah, you don't have to say his name, but I know who your buddy was. We did a lot of boxing with him.
I
The
I still
box,
have
the
the card
boxing
he
vid.
wrote for me.
Yeah, the
Oh yeah.
boxing
Oh, I
video.
love that.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I love
still
boxing.
have the
I
card he
love
wrote for
boxing.
me.
Oh, yeah, that was a good relation. That was a good relationship, mentor mentee. It's funny. It's crazy. Every mentor mentee relationship ended up working so well.
Yeah.
It's like it didn't matter who it was, but like it ended up working out so well for like 99% of people. I don't know. I felt like that was one of my like specialties was being able to match a mentor and a mentee as a coordinator.
Yeah.
And I think that took some time to develop because when you don't, you know, partner the right people, if you're not actually trying, you can have some conflicts. But you guys did a really good job. You as his mentor, and he really, he was a fun guy.
He is. Yeah. What got you into that? Like, were you passionate about the adapted stuff beforehand, or did that just come when you were working with Combs?
So I started my first adaptive PE class at Brockport, and I got a D in adaptive PE. And that's what led me to not get my teacher licensure because I was just like, I'm not going to be a teacher if I can't pass a class that I thought I was actually good at. Because I thought I
Yeah.
was good at it.
Now look at you.
Right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How am I failing this class? I still have my portfolio. Um, and Dr. Lieberman is one of the best teachers in adaptive PE, and she probably failed me for a reason, but it definitely taught me a lesson that, if you're not willing to work hard, you're not going to get the grade you think you ought to receive, even if you think you worked hard enough. Maybe you're just not thinking hard enough. It's almost like,
Hmm.
yeah, you can work really hard and you can think you do a really good job at something, but are you doing it efficiently? Are you, answering? Are you still answering all the questions that were supposed to be answered? So apparently, I didn't do my job as a student, and before that, obviously, growing up, my uncle has an intellectual disability, So, and he lived a block away from my house. And so growing up, we'd go over to my grandma's house, and he would obviously be there because he's dependent on my grandma and grandpa. And so, I mean, they're a block away from my house. So obviously, we're going to have an awesome relationship with him. So my family and I,
Mm-hmm.
had a good relationship with my uncle, who's got an intellectual disability, who actually was born without a disability. The umbilical cord got wrapped around his neck at birth, and so he went from no disability to an intellectual disability because he was lacking blood and oxygen to the brain.
Wow.
So it was like just like that. And
Jeez.
so the mentality of like a 13-year-old is his mindset, even though he's in his 60s. He was the first. He was still the first person in our town, our city of Tonawanda, to be able to drive with an intellectual disability. So he went to a special ed class. One of the first time there was special ed, because in the 60s they didn't really have that kind of stuff. But he was in special ed, and he got his driver's license. And he still drives to this day, and he works actually full time still this day. And he's
That's awesome.
he's been saving money, and I mean there's no excuses, type of thing. He's got his license because my grandfather, he owned Weber's Automotive, which is an auto mechanic shop, and I think if it wasn't for that, then I don't think he would have gotten his license, because he was always around the auto mechanic shop growing up. He worked there growing up, so he always had a job, and they always made
Mm-hmm.
sure that he was working and learning and stuff like that. So I kind of learned how to not work with people with intellectual disabilities, but I just intuitively was comfortable around people with disabilities because my uncle had one. But I didn't realize that until I got to UNCW. When I was at Brockport, I worked with a kid with autism, but autism is different than intellectual disability. Autism is social, so no eye contact from this individual. They were not paying attention to me. They didn't want to have a conversation with me. They didn't know my name. They just run away from me. I felt like I had no connection with them. I'm like, just not. I still didn't know what autism was. And it took 10 years to really learn what autism was, or a social impairments, or Asperger's, whatever that people want to label them. And so when I got to UNCW, I had that degree and background, and that kind of like attitude of like, oh, I can't believe I failed adaptive PE, and oh my gosh, I'm taking adaptive PE again at UNCW. Man, I'm gonna get an A in this class. Like, I'm gonna ace this course. I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna show Dr. Lieberman. I'm gonna show Dr. Combs. I'm gonna be your best person in this program. And so that's when she's like, you're really good. I'm going to have you work with the hardest, not the hardest student, but a student with the most needs. And this student was aggressive. The student had intellectual disability. The student had autism. The student had Down syndrome. And she's like, I want you to work with them. I'm like, okay. So I sit next to them. I'm like, hey, I really like your shoes. And he puts me in a headlock. And the teacher runs over. It's like, I'll say not his name. Brian, get off of him. Get off of him. I'm like, what? It's fine, right? She's like, no, he's not allowed to choke you. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So that was like my first day. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And there was other times, like in the pool, he swung and hit me in the face. And it was just like,
Jeez.
yeah, I mean, you'd be in the weight room with him, and all of a sudden he'd strike you. And it was just like, whoo, you have to really, some students have some aggression, and and it comes from home. And a lot of it was, you would hear him repeat things he heard at home. He would start swearing like he was yelling at somebody like he heard at home. And so, you're like, wow, I can't believe people, have to go through this. And, I'm going to do my best I can at like teaching him and helping him. And she's like, wow, you're a really good mentor. You should work my adaptive physical activity program. We just created a grant. We can pay you as a mentor on Saturdays from, 8 in the morning to 11 a.m. or whenever it was. I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And that's what kind of got me in adaptive physical activity. And then from there is when I was getting my teacher licensure. I did my master's degree. I did my internship at that same program. And then with all that experience working at the university was what led to the doctorate degree. So it's all kind of accumulated from there.
It's cool to call you a doctor now. How's it feel?
I put doctor in my Instagram name, And then I took it out. I was just like, I don't feel like a medical doctor. So I don't want to be called Dr. Weber unless you're referring to me as your teacher. Or if you just feel like calling me Dr. Weber and you think that's cool, that's fine. But because it's weird, because some people are like, "Oh, Dr. Jordan Weber, you must be a physio or physical therapist. Hey, what do I do for back pain?" And I'm like, oh, "No, I don't want these messages. I'm taking the doctor out of the name." I'm like, "This doesn't feel right. It's an educational doctorate. I just needed it to teach at the university level. Um, you know, do I want to get my physical therapy degree and license? No. Um, that's something that I used to think I wanted to get and like go into that type of profession, but just too many clients per day, per hour, just be too much overload. And I've heard some stories of people going into PT and like getting out and just either struggling to find work or just being overworked. So,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Man, I could have done the same thing with a personal training certification." I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much." So,
Yeah. I will say, man, that PE degree was originally I was going to go do PT. When I was transferring, I did community college like you, 2 years, and I was trying to transfer in, and I went to do the whole class sign up thing, and I didn't sign up for any classes, and I was going to go get a bio, a bachelor's in bio, because I thought that would just set me up for PT real well. And I'm talking to this guy. I don't remember the like head of bio department's name. He's kind of a douchebag, though. Be honest. And he was like, "Yeah, just so you know, like you're not gonna make it out like on time." And I'm like, "Bet. All right, we're gonna see what's
yeah.
gonna happen here." But I got so stressed out when we came back. Like I had like a night terror thing where I was like locked like in bed, thinking being abducted by aliens. Like I'm about to go to university. Like never thought I'd do that. Teachers told me I wouldn't do that. And now I don't even have classes signed up, and I start in like a week. What is
Oof.
going on? And then Dr. Combs left a voicemail on my parents' home phone, um, saying we'd love to have you in the PE program. Like, give me a call back. And I was like, no way. Like, this is it. Okay, cool. And that that just made so much sense. It just clicked. And then I don't even. It was the coolest thing getting there and meeting everyone, like meeting you, meeting everyone else in the program. It just felt like a family, and that was probably one of the coolest parts about um, everything with university for me. But then on top of that, dude, that internship that I don't know who set me up with that, Combs, Elliott, you, whoever at Laney with Ruby Sutton, that was probably one of the biggest life changing moments in my life.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome.
You got to hang out with Michael Jordan's teacher, right?
Teacher. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
And I want to have her on here sometime. And she dropped a line to me that just will always stay with me. And she said, Chris, I've learned so much from you, like more than I have in any other internship at all. Because I taught the weight training there for the high school. And she's like, are you sure like about this teaching thing? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, this is great. Things are changing. But I feel like you are meant to do things way greater than this. And I'm like, what? Are you supposed to be telling me that? And she's like, I want you to be a teacher. I want you to be in the school system. I would love to see your knowledge put forth to the kids, but just really think about like what you actually want to do. Because she knew I was so passionate about bodybuilding and training, and she saw that with the teaching. Um, but that was probably one of the biggest perspective shifts of my life when someone told me that. Just to see someone believe in me to do something different, but sometimes I wish I would have gone into education. I guess it's never too late, but
That's the thing. It's never too late for education.
I don't know.
It's something that I tell people, hey, if you ever go out and come back when you're retired, that would be cool. If you could coach a team, that would be cool. If you could volunteer with a program, that would be cool. Like you don't even have to do it full time. It's like I want to coach soccer so bad, but I know how much time it's going to take. And once I do coach soccer, I'm gonna really want to like be serious about it. Whether it's trying to do an assistant internship at UNCW, or whether it's coaching a kids team. It's gonna happen, and I'm excited for that. That's kind of like maybe that'll
For
lead
sure.
to something new, a new opportunity. Maybe it will be coaching, but it's always having an open mind toward the future and not being like kind of stiff minded where I'm gonna be like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll never be this or I'll never do that. I should just give up. Um, what kind of future aspirations do you have right now?
Oh man. Um, that's a loaded question. I don't know if we have time for all that. I could talk for about an
What's
hour.
your short term
Um,
goal?
I don't know.
What's the next three
Short term
months?
goal. Next 3 months.
Let's talk about
Really just get prepared for the
your
kid.
nutrition. Okay.
Oh man.
Do you have any
We can talk about
nutrition
that.
goals?
So oh yeah, for sure. Um, so that Ruby Sutton comment pushed me to like start that coaching business that I had, which is hilarious how that worked out. And then coming to talk to your class and it going really well. Once I got my current job now, I said I'm gonna put this coaching thing on hold because this job is current state will make a lot of sense monetarily, financially, build skills, like sales role. It's great. And now I'm in leadership. I love it. And a lot of what I learned in the education program has helped me be a better leader, relay information better, so many things. Like honestly, writing lesson plans helped me a bunch. I know that sounds crazy, but it helped me a lot. Um, but I started working back with my coach again, Austin Stout, and I'm current state trying to get back down to decent amount lower percentage body fat because I got pretty large around the waist there for a bit, just sitting at a desk all day and
What's
not
your
really
body?
taking my training seriously.
What are we at
I don't
now?
want. I don't even know now, but I am seeing abs now. I am seeing
Okay.
abs now.
Okay.
I'm probably down.
What do you think your body fat
Fat
is right
wise,
now?
probably down. Um, maybe like 13,
13?
13
That's
ish.
that's still low. Under 16 is
Yeah,
low.
but I mean, we
Relatively
got body dysmorphia after all those
to
years.
the average population. 16 and under is
Yeah,
pretty
definitely.
good for the average population. I'm thinking in general terms, but yeah, I understand bodybuilding terms. You want to be at like 6, baby.
Yeah. Well, I made up
I
my
remember
mind.
I was 6 when I first came down here. And that's what got me into bodybuilding. And people were just like, "Dude, you need to just get in the show." I'm like, "All right, I'll do it." Boom, I was on the show, and I think I got second in my first show. I was just like, "Dang, that was." Now I
Dude.
just need to add size. But then I think that was the
Yep.
time when everyone was like, "We're gonna add more size." I'm like, God, I feel like
Yep.
I could have really competed like if I would have started at my prime age as opposed to a little bit older because people were starting to catch on to a lot of the other supplements out there. So I was like,
Yeah.
but
So I'm
it
trying to
was an
drop down
awesome
more
experience.
to put. Oh, 100%. And that's what I'm working on right now. We're doing a recomp to get my body in better position, be more insulin sensitive to everything, be able to really drive good growth, and then gonna do however long I need. But I really want to compete next year. I want to do it again. So my last show, my senior year with you guys, I was so sick that really the first semester and like half of the second one with a GI issue. And then I did a 6 week prep, balls to the wall, wrecked my body, did everything I could because I just wanted to say,
So are
I'm
you
going to
gonna
step on
go
stage
100?
again,
Are you
screw
gonna go
whatever's going on.
100%? Or are you gonna like scale it back so no problems occur? You know what I mean? Are you going
So the
balls to the
problems
wall this time?
occurred for the show.
This upcoming one? Are you like 100,
Yeah,
110%?
but just not in 6 weeks.
Okay.
It'll be a lot more methodical.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the most brutal part. Because remember when we were training, when you were getting ready we were training at like O2 Fitness or something.
Yep.
And I had just started putting on some size again after getting over being sick. And you were getting ready for a show, we were doing some posing. And that's when I was finally on my way back. And I'm like, all right, this Europa show, like I'm going to do I'm gonna give it my best shot, and I didn't look that great, and I had it was, man, that's a conversation for another time. That was a rough experience, but a very, very good one to learn. I learned so much about my body, so much about uh, how the psychological plays into everything with nutrition and very strict eating and very strict training whenever you're coming from a position that you weren't preparing yourself for. Like, that's the whole point of prep, right? Is to get yourself in this certain position where I'm like, all right, I'm not in this position to even start prepping, but I'm going to prep anyways in 6 weeks. So it was
I,
very difficult, but uh, it is what it is.
yeah, I mean it's considering things before they even occur, right? It's like good prepping is like having so much self-control, it's ridiculous. And then thinking so far ahead, like no, I'm going to put this donut down because in 2 weeks like it's going to be worth it, or in a
Yep.
year it's going to be worth it. This donut today, it's going to be worth it. I have to do this one donut at a time, one Coke at a time, one spread at a time. It's all about math, right? It's just calories in, calories
Mm-hmm.
out. But people obviously don't want to count that. But I just tell people just take one bad thing away a week, then do two things that you typically do that are bad per week. Just
Yeah.
gradually lose weight that way. But if you're prepping, it's a different ball game. I mean, you can gain and lose weight a lot faster than your general pop. If you wanted to lose weight,
Oh, yeah.
right now, you'd be like, all right, I'm loaded, I'm doing it. If you have that mindset. And so that's the crazy thing about prep is all of a sudden you have this new mindset where it's like, you know, I'm going to do this, and then there's like,
You have a
no,
goal.
there's no outing,
There's a deadline.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Deadlines matter. Yeah, I think it's important to have deadlines.
100%. And
Um,
that's what I've needed. Training aimlessly for general health is okay for me, but I just can't, excuse me, I can't, I just have to have I have to have a reason. I have to have a why.
no, I know. That's why it's so hard to be motivated to train after you've done bodybuilding competitions, because it's like, now what? What am I even training for? And you're just like,
Yeah, exactly.
just like, all right, this phase of training to this phase of training. It's like, I've done every phase of training. Like, I don't want to do that phase of training, but you're kind of forcing yourself to do
Well,
that
your
phase of
training's
training.
changed.
Oh yeah, my whole mindset has changed toward training. It's all, certified functional strength coach approach is my new thing. Um, and then trying to up my cardio 2 to 3 times per week. 2 to 3 lifts per week, 2 to 3 cardio bouts per week, and then everything else is just a lot of demoing. Burns. Whenever I'm teaching classes like that, those things kind of add up during the semester. So sometimes some semesters I'm getting a lot of work just from teaching, and then I like to have two
Mm-hmm.
to three lifts per week and try to get 2 to 3 cardio per sessions, but that is I am not keeping up with my cardio, to say the least. Like, it's very tough for me to get on that thing. Very no
I'm
motivation
doing
right
40
now.
minutes of walking a day.
That's nice.
I'm
Yeah.
liking it.
I
I'm
mean,
like,
I average almost
yeah,
10,000 steps per day, even though I don't try.
you're always on your feet. You're
Yeah.
always on your feet.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you as a professor. I mean, I thought you were gonna stand up in the podcast. I mean, you're sitting on like a rogue jump box right now.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm kind of
you're
rocking
the
forward and
epitome of
back.
fitness.
Well, I mean, I definitely have a new perception toward posture and how it really doesn't, you don't want to have that you don't want to go like this, pin your body back when you're sitting and stuff like that. I definitely believe posture is a lot more dynamic. I'm learning so much new biomechanic stuff now when it comes to breathing and the asymmetries the body has, that it's like you can just go through this wormhole of like things that don't even matter but actually do matter a lot. Or you can just keep it really basic and just do, your typical routine and probably get pretty good results. It's like, how critical do you want to evaluate, your training program? And I think that's kind of where my mindset is. It's just evaluating certain programs, putting them all together, trying new things, doing whatever I feel like I need to do. Obviously, push pull, hinge squat, core is like the basis of the program. And then cardio, pretty much like everybody else. But I don't do the single joint training um, as much. Like,
Really?
yeah, so like no curls or tricep extension or leg curls or like shoulder raises. I'll do rear flies. I'll do IYTs, prone, like
Help with
activation
posture,
exercises. Yeah,
whatnot.
I'll do single joint shoulder and hip stuff, but generally um, isometric hamstring stuff. And the bicep is is basically when I'm carrying the baby and I'm holding him isometrically all day is my bicep exercise. And then I go to the left arm and I'll hold that
There you
isometrically.
go.
So I don't need to do more carries. I do enough carrying exercises and bicep curls. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy because it's like you build such a huge physique and it's so hard to keep it. It's so
Hmm.
impossible to keep it. It's like you get to this peak and it's like it's so hard to maintain and keep it that it's like you it's one or the other. It's all in or your typical push, your typical program basically. And that's kind of what I'm doing now because it's like, I don't have the time to lift 6 7 days a week for 2 3 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or at least I'm not motivated to do that right now. But could I do that if I wanted to? Probably. Um, if I had that goal and I wanted to have that mindset, like you have that goal, you have that mindset, you're gonna do it regardless. So, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta get the job
Yeah.
done. You said you're gonna do it. Try it. If it fails, who cares? If it doesn't fail, it was a success. You know? Um,
Hmm.
and you just have to have that mindset of whatever. I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna look awesome regardless of what happens at the end of this. I'm gonna feel
Exactly.
awesome too.
And I'm enjoying training more. Like I'm loving training because I have this goal in mind and I know that everything I'm doing is setting me up for that, right? It's like it's that same thing of not eating a donut right now for knowing that I don't have to do that extra cardio to burn that off in a year. Like I'm going to go ahead and be like
Yeah, I know. And
I'm doing everything with intention.
the industry doesn't want you to feel good about yourself, right? The
No,
fitness
I
the
mean, but
fitness
that's
industry
the
no, I'm saying the
yeah.
fitness industry wants you to be kind of how I feel like, oh, I'm going to be a functional trainer. I don't want to do too many biceps and look too good. I don't want to have a six pack because that's like too flashy. And then it's like, okay, and then you end up just doing these like really boring workouts and not getting that great of results and not looking that much better because you haven't changed your diet, you haven't made any goals for physique, and you're not actually making hypertrophy gains because you're doing too much functional stuff. And then you're like, well, then I want to start
But
adding hypertrophy. Yes. But
but you're making major gains in terms of the functional mobility stuff because dude, your
oh, I know
mobility that I
that
see
is
you
the
post on Instagram and YouTube, holy shit, dude. How do you do that?
that is the benefit of functional training is that your body feels so good that you feel like you can do anything. Whereas like if you bodybuild, your body needs a break. Like you're
Mhm.
just like you're just doing sets and volume, and it's really boring work, right? Bicep curls, tricep extensions, and that burn. It just like it kills, right? But with like functional training, it's like it's minimal effective dose, it's lower reps,
Mhm.
it's pretty high intensity, it's eccentrics, isometrics, obviously dynamic movements. It's all three triplanar exercises, lots of unilateral, no back squat, um, not a lot of spinal loading, a lot of postural corrective exercises, and like you don't feel like you worked out after. You don't feel sore, because you're not over progressing. You're not like overdoing it. And so
Mhm.
you feel like you have more in the tank, and so you feel better, so you can do more things, right? So I can go surfing and not be sore because I killed my legs for because I'm bodybuilding, right? You can't
Yeah.
surf after you do leg day if you're a bodybuilder, right? Or it's gonna just kill. So it's like there's
Yeah.
trade-offs. So functional training um, increases your ability to do like a lot of functional things, like get in the kneeling position and play with your kid without your ankles hurting or your knees hurting or your back hurting, you know. Um, so sometimes with the hypertrophy training, you start reducing the range of motion because you're so concentrating on hypertrophy, you know, and that's the goal. Um, but also range of motion because obviously posing is, you know, range of motion is huge, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
with Alex shows off his range of motion.
Oh yeah.
And so like, you know, still very beneficial. And I think that's why stretching is really important for bodybuilders too.
He's like the best of both worlds. He's got a crazy physique, extremely athletic and mobile. I mean, it's awesome seeing
Yeah,
just seeing his body.
I mean,
It's crazy.
he can do a marathon if he wants. He could do
Yeah.
backflip if he wants. He can do gymnastics if he wants. Um, but he does experience probably the most pain, right? I mean, he goes through lots of
Yeah.
surgeries. He goes through lots of recovery processes, but he also bounces back. So he's very
Mm-hmm.
motivating to kind of like, wow, yeah, he may even know he's going to get injured. And a lot of these people that do these competitions know that injury is on the horizon, right? If you're going to train
It's
for an iron,
inevitable.
if
Yeah.
you're going to train for an Ironman, you're going to have shin splints. If you're going to
Mm-hmm.
train swimming, your shoulders are going to probably hurt. Like things aren't going to be that great, but like that shouldn't deprive you from that stimulus that your body probably needs, right? When you take your body to extremes, your endorphins go to extremes. And endorphins obviously is that dopamine center that a lot of us strive for, that, with physical exercise, there's no better drug than physical exercise. You work out a good
Mm-hmm.
workout, and after that exercise, you're just like, oh man, it just like I don't need anything. I just feel so good right now. And like that's kind of how we're wired. And so like having
Yeah.
goals and like with your bodybuilding, like it's just gonna feel good. You're just gonna feel good all along the whole way too. So that's kind of an awesome journey.
Yeah. Getting my body in a better place. I mean, already I feel more confident, right? I mean, because it's a huge confidence boost whenever you're starting to fill out shirts again. Like, you got to put on a belt because you know your waist is getting smaller. But even just like feeling my body get healthier. I know that sounds crazy to say for a lot of people. They may not understand that. But when you go from being very insulin resistant, like when you're trying to train and get a pump and you get nothing and you're tired, to getting an insane pump on low carbs, low carbs isn't like 80 to 100 grams a day. Like that is a major change and a major milestone, in my opinion. Being able to get your body to that position that it can effectively use nutrients and perform a lot more proficient than it was before. So I'm so happy with where I'm at now. And I'm excited just to see what's going to keep happening. But everything is lining me up to, I mean, I'm basically prepping already, right? It's just not prep. But everything I'm doing now is setting me up for that show. And I can't wait.
Yeah, it's crazy what nutrition does, right? It gives you energy just from reducing the the um the visceral like pressure you put on your body when you are heavier, right? The pressure it puts on
Mm-hmm.
your veins and arteries, the pressure it puts on your organs, the more fat around your organs you have, like all that stuff like weighs
Yeah.
on you. You try to do a pull up and you're like, man, I feel heavy. Like push ups are hard, right? You do 10 push ups and you feel heavy. That's not a good sign. But like when you eat right, your body like adapts. You lose body, fat around the midsection. Like you feel like you can move proficiently. You feel more athletic. You feel healthy, and like you change your attitude. You know, immediately when it comes to those foods that used to, make you so sensitive to insulin or insensitive to
Yeah.
insulin.
I mean, fitness is the foundation of everything. I've said that a lot and I'll keep saying that. But like fitness as a whole, not just exercise, but nutrition as well. Like if you can get that down, the discipline, the again doing things with intention. everything in life, I swear, gets easier because you have this this thing down below, this foundational whatever of yourself that you have put yourself through pain, you've put yourself through not eating that donut, having the discipline to do that, that if you can channel that into other things, you'll kill it. You'll do great. It's just how it works because you can see the changes in your body. You carry it around with you. It's a constant reminder of what you've done. Just do that with other things and you'll be successful. I swear this is how life works. And that's why I love fitness. I love it.
Yeah, and the one thing is that you realize is that you affect everyone that you come in contact with, right? They look at you and they're like, "Man, he's got pretty low body fat. I got pretty high body fat. Maybe I need to change something." And then all of a sudden they're like, they ask you a question like, "Hey, what's your diet?" Or all of a sudden they're talking to their friend and you hear them and they're like, "Yeah, I really need to go on a diet." Or it's like you start sparking that conversation in people's eyes. Like people I come in contact with,
Yeah.
family, relatives, they're all they've all done their change in maturation. Like mom, dad, brothers. That was years ago. You know, now when I come in contact with people that really have questions and really want to understand nutrition and fitness, they change dramatically just from giving them theory. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can do this. Like I can gain weight. I can be 250 if I want. If I eat like crap. Like you're just eating like crap. Like it's plain and simple. Like you know it, I know it.
Yeah.
You know, let's look at how many calories you're eating. That was 7,000 calories in one day. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
You don't do any cardio?
You'll surprise yourself.
You don't do any cardio.
If you don't know what you're eating, you'll surprise yourself.
Yeah, and it's like once and then once you're giving them feedback and suggestions and they realize that someone actually cares about their health, then they're like, wow, I can do this. And someone actually cares about me. And then you get that person over the hump and you never have to worry about that person again. They're going to help other people get over the hump.
They're hooked.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And I have a ton of friends, close friends and relatives that like have changed and have like gotten really healthy and like have gone through their transformation and love to talk about it and like motivate other people. And like that's what you should be. That's how you should be perceived in your community if you're a health and fitness
Yeah.
um, uh, person, or someone that just embodies that. That's that can throw posture off. So making sure you got the right shoes, you're not supinated on one leg or pronated on one leg, that you're trying to even out your asymmetries, that type of thing. Understanding asymmetry is a huge thing nowadays. Like people don't understand that. We tend to be more downward on our right side with our left shoulder up. We tend to be more in our back right hip with our right hip down, our left hip up. So we have this because we have 3 lobes of lung on our right and only 2 on our left. And our heart is on our left, our liver is on our right. And so when we inhale, we tend to bias our body toward the right side because we have the 3 lobes of lung, so they're kind of back stronger. So we tend to have a more open left side, and these lungs work a little bit better than the right lungs. So we have to kind of put our body back into a symmetrical, like a position where we're not so biased toward one side. So that kind of stuff is called PRI, Postural Restorative Institute, if you want to learn more about that. But just breathing in general is going to be the best for posture for sure.
Okay. So if I was at my desk and I had 5 to 10 minutes to do anything, let's say I did half of that of just breathing, just focusing on my breathing, what would you fill the other time with?
Getting that work done as quick as you could so you get off the chair.
What? No, but what kind of stretching would you do? Like, what would you do if you could get up from your desk and do some stretching? What would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I might
If you only had to pick two or
I would
three
just try
stretches.
to walk. I would just walk. I wouldn't stretch. I would walk. I don't think just stretching willy nilly just for 5 or 10 minutes is really going to do anything. In between, like your desk job or whatever, I think walking is probably one of the best things. or just like full range of motion squats or push-ups, honestly, because you're going to get stretch and strength doing that. um, One, you're really not ready to work out in between your desk job. I would just try to get your desk job done so that you can go work out and focus on your workout during your workout. I'm not really
Yeah.
a big fan of like stretch breaks or like, I would just say get up and walk, get up and get some water, just get off your
Hmm.
seat every 20 minutes. Don't really worry about stretching because usually, to try to teach someone that is like trying to teach someone, you know, you know how that is. You have to really, they have to watch a video. But I mean, I might just do some neck rolls. I might move my back around. I might just like do a figure four stretch, like cross my leg over. But those are all just kind of band-aids. I wouldn't say they're actually doing anything. Any movement that you think is good is probably fine, but I wouldn't really recommend any routine. I think your mobility should just come with your training, whether that's a mobility day or you add it before your workout. But it definitely should be part of your routine. I
When do
feel,
you know you're ready?
hmm,
Like when do you know you're ready? Like after, like when do you feel like you're fully mobile? Is that the right term? Like when you're doing this mobility stuff before a workout, when do you say, okay, I'm good to start training now?
right after the power work. So like it's a very progressive, like it's foam roll. I want to assess the tissue quality. I want to feel every muscle. I want to feel my TFL. I want to feel my glute med. I want to feel my quad. I want to feel my adductors. I want to feel my, you name it. I'm gonna feel that muscle before I work out. I want to know the density,
Okay.
the resilience, the um, the pain threshold level of every single muscle before I start. Because when I take that assessment measure, that gives me so much knowledge and insight on how my body is doing for that day. That sets me up to better reps and sets in that exercise or that activity. Then I stretch all major muscles, hamstring, quad, whether it's a multi joint stretch that gets two or three things at one time, or I do one joint at a time if I have time. But regardless, I stretch statically every muscle for about 15 to 30 seconds. Then I do
Okay.
motor controller activation or stability exercises, basically FMS. So like a bird dog hold, maybe a plank or a bear crawl. Could be a push up hold. It could be a hip extension. It could be a floor slide, a wall slide, any type of like postural related corrective exercise. Then I do dynamic stretching like a split squat or a lateral squat or a push up or an inchworm or a toe touch a squat or a single leg reach. And then I do things like skipping, jumping, linear days on day one, and then do lateral dynamic warm ups on day two. So like karaoke, side step scissors, ladder drills, linear and lateral ways. And then once
Hmm.
I've done all that, I'm ready to go. Like I feel like so good. That's when you do the power because your body, your nervous system's primed and ready to go. Now you're ready to freaking go 100% intensity, whether it's med ball throw, uh, dumbbell snatch, trap bar deadlift, or it could be uh, something like a box jump, hurdle jumps, where something explosive, springy, or maybe you're timing your speed drills like time 10s or 40-yard sprints. After that is when you do, then now I'm ready to do my strength training because now I've done my CNS work, my ATP CP work. Now I'm going to focus on strength training, maybe 5 to 8 reps, 2 to 3 sets. And I usually triset lower body, upper body core exercise, and I do 3 pods. And each pod
Hmm.
has 3 exercises. It goes lower body, upper body core, lower body, upper body core, lower body, upper body core. And then if I have a fourth pod, that's when I'll do like my bodybuilding or my single joint exercises. And then
Okay.
after that, I have my conditioning, which is either going to be HIIT training or long, slow duration training. Let's just say I really want to focus on pull-ups that day. That'll be my first exercise. Really, if it's a push day, I'm going to focus on my dumbbell for my first exercise. That's after my power set. So I still have the approach of trying to build strength and hypertrophy, But since I'm doing it in trisets, I'm probably not getting as much hypertrophy as you would if you were to rest a little bit more in between sets. But that is also to condense the workout and to do more in one workout as opposed to do a 2 hour workout and get the same amount. So that's
A
kind of
lot of
how
metabolic work, sounds like.
yeah, it's a little, but yeah, it's kind of like 45 seconds on, 30 seconds off, like if um, you look at it that way. Because yeah, I mean, if you're bodybuilding, you might do a set of bicep curls and then you're going to wait 30, 60 seconds. You're just not going to get as much done if you're
Mhm.
if you're bodybuilding, or if you're bodybuilding, you're going to do bicep curls and then you're going to do tricep extensions and then you're going to do something else for the arms, right? You're not going to do
Mhm.
upper body, lower body, core. That's just you're going too many different things. You're going to focus on either upper or lower body. You're going to focus on single joint exercises for hypertrophy. That's just how bodybuilding is. So functional training, it's trying to get a good variety, unilateral exercises, upper body, lower body, core exercises, focus on anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion, anti-extension exercises as opposed to sit-ups, crunches, and Russian twists. So it is a certified functional strength coach approach, and that's kind of what I got my certification in. And so that's kind of what I've been doing and preaching since I got certified in that. And that's led to my body just feeling just like really good to the point where like the only thing that's unsafe is the mobility training, the extreme mobility training. That's the only thing that I do that's actually unsafe. If I'm going to get injured, it's not going to be from
Wow.
that program. It's going to be from my mobility training. So,
Hmm. All those crazy videos on Instagram of you doing all the I don't know how your body even moves like that, but it's awesome.
yeah, I mean, I've always liked to move in different ways. I think I got that from yoga, and then I, got functional range conditioning certified, and my wife was Kinstretch certified, and I taught those FRC classes and mobility classes, and I like making up those different movement pathways just as a form of movement expression, just to show you like this is kind of the strength and mobility I've accrued from functional training, you know, not the other way around. Like I don't do the mobility training to be better at mobility training. Like I'm good at mobility because I have a functional training approach, not because I do mobility snacks in between like my
Hmm.
my desk job. You know what I mean? Like I probably sit just as much
Okay.
as anybody, but I just make sure that the self myofascial release is is first and foremost in my workouts and trying to release those tense spots before I start my stretching. But yeah, man,
Huh. Well, I think the moral of all that is that movement is the cure.
for sure. Movement culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got one more question for you.
Okay.
If someone was to want to pursue education as a career, what is your biggest piece of advice for them?
Volunteer at the closest school that is near you that will allow you to volunteer, or get a job at the closest school that is near your house if you can, as either a sub or assistant teacher or after school teacher. Work at the YMCA, work with youth at camps, work at sport programs and sport camps. Try to find a coach that maybe in the community that's looking for people to help them with a summer camp. Offer your volunteering services for any type of youth church camps. They usually have a lot of volunteering in needs for summer camps. So any community-based organization that's looking for counselors, teachers, coaches, trainers, just volunteer, get your foot in the door, and try to find an environment and manager that you want to be around for the next 5 years, and try to just stick around them as long as you can and get as much information as you can, and then either stay at that current position, try to work your way up, or find something in a different location. Go
Awesome.
ahead.
Well, how can people connect with you?
Sure. Yeah, you can just check me out on Instagram at Jordan under dash Weber 84. I'm on Twitter too, and I'm also on YouTube at Jordan Weber Training. I have an adaptive physical activity page. If you just look up at adaptive physical activity on YouTube, Jordan Weber Training on YouTube, and Jordan under dash Weber 84 on Instagram.
Awesome. I will drop those links below. If people stumble across the videos of me, that is pretty hilarious. Of me dropping that frisbee, playing Ultimate that day, I'll never forget that moment. That was, dude, what a letdown.
We need to get that video back up.
Oh, it's not up anymore?
No. I mean, we need to relocate. I want to send me that link.
Oh God. All right, I will. I have it saved somewhere because it's so funny, but I will. But dude, Jordan, thank you so much for your time, man. I really
All right,
appreciate it.
Chris.
It's been super cool to reconnect a little bit. And next time in Wilmington, we need to grab a coffee from PCJ or hit the rec center for a workout.
Yeah, let's definitely go to the rec center. We'll definitely work out, and I'll get you on my pod.
Sounds good, man. Well, thanks so much, Jordan. Appreciate you, man.
Cool, man. All right, Chris.